thank you all for coming. We at the Northern Star are incredibly honored to have this panel of distinguished journalists here today. Though the Star operates on a much smaller scale than any of these newspapers, we appreciate these panelists taking time out of their day because we understand on many levels what they do. You see, the Star began publishing in 1899, became a daily in 1965, and for all intents and purposes, we are independent from the university, even though we're still part of it. Few colleges in the country have this luxury, and it's something in which we take great pride. Like all newspapers, the Star has been facing a new set of challenges in this not-so-wonderful economy because of less advertising revenue and low reader traffic at the end of the week. The Star's management board voted to cut Friday issues for the foreseeable future. It wasn't a choice we wanted to make, but it's something we had to do to ensure the Star's long-term success. Despite these challenges, I think my coworkers would agree with me when I say the Northern Star has had a tremendous positive impact on our higher education. Working on a print and online product every day enhances our understanding of the profession in a way classroom work cannot. It's something I'm thankful for every day. That said, I'm confident that when we receive our diplomas and toss our caps in the air, we will leave NIU ready to handle anything and everything that comes our way. I could probably sit up here and talk for another hour, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the person or people you all came to see. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Kevin Sheldon, Vice President of Northern Star Alumni Board.
Now, I'm extremely honored to be here today and to introduce some of the finest journalists in the country and in the world. And I must admit, I was a little perplexed. I mean, not what to say, their achievements speak for themselves, but I was a little worried about what do I wear in an event like this. I mean, I've never done this before. So I decided to, in keeping with the election theme, I would go with the Rick Santorum look. Mainly because I can't pull off the Mitt Romney look. I can't even pull off the casual Mitt Romney look, you know, with the pressed blue jeans and the starched shirt. And the Ron Paul look, that's kind of my everyday wear. And unfortunately, I had all my suits cleaned and pressed last week, and I couldn't pull that one off today for you. Now, I started my journalism career here 30 years, some odd years ago, right here at NIU. Took Journalism 100 in the hallowed halls of Revis Hall, somewhere over there. And I gotta admit, my career pretty much tanked at Journalism 101. But I'm still a bit of a news junkie. I read every day, I read newspapers, I read magazines, anything I can get my hands on. And in a time when I see front page newspaper articles laced with opinion, and I see editorials where half the facts, the known facts, are taken away so it can become kind of a cheerleading bit for someone or something. It's really refreshing to see gentlemen like we have up here today who hold journalism to a high standard. These gentlemen raise the bar for journalists all over the world. Now, each of these gentlemen up here today have a lengthy list of accomplishments, and they could each probably do a 50-page bio, and I gotta admit they did. But using that Journalism 100 skill, I use the inverted pyramid, and I've narrowed it down to some bullet points. And I'll start with Bruce Stoll on your left there. Bruce has been the editorial page editor of the Chicago Tribune since 2000. He's the 1994 recipient of the Pulitzer Prize and has covered city and state and national politics since joining the Tribune in 1978. He's currently responsible for the daily production of the Tribune editorial Voice of the People and the commentary pages. Under Bruce Stoll's direction, the Tribune editorial board has earned a dozen national awards, including the Pulitzer Prize for editorial writing in 2003. He was also finalist for the Pulitzer Prize in 2009, 2010, and 2011. The board has earned a dozen national awards during his tenure, including the 2002 and 2008 Distinguished Writing Award from the American Society of Newspaper Editors. Please welcome Bruce Dole. In the middle is Mark Brown. Mark is a 1977 NIU graduate, and he was former Northern Star editor. He's entering his 4th decade at the Sun-Times, or does 30 years sound better? I don't know. And has served as full-time news columnist since 2000. Renowned movie critic Roger Ebert once called Mark Brown the best local columnist since Mike Royko. And Chicago Magazine recognized him in its Best of Chicago issue. Prior to his work at the Sun-Times, Mark Brown also worked at the Quad City Times in Davenport, Iowa. Mark has been a tremendous ally of the Northern Star over the years and has inspired many a young journalist here at NIU. Please welcome Mark Brown. And our third panelist is Bernie Schoenberg. And Bernie is a Evanston native and Illinois Champaign-Urbana graduate, and has covered politics since joining the Springfield State Journal-Register as a City Hall reporter in 1990, and becoming the newspaper's political columnist in 1992. In 1993, he shared a National George Polk Award for a series of stories linking state contracts to political contributions. Bernie has also worked for the Associated Press in Chicago and the Bloomington Pantagraph. And Bernie also has a connection to NIU, to DeKalb. His brother, Louis, is the owner of a very famous DeKalb landmark, American Liquors. Brother somewhere out there. And our moderator today is Jason Schomburg, who is no stranger to DeKalb. He is currently the editor of the DeKalb Daily Chronicle, having been named to that post in November 2009. And prior to returning to the DeKalb Sycamore area, he held various positions for 12 years at the Northwest Herald in Crystal Lake. Jason is a December 1997 NIU grad and also a Northern Star alum. Please welcome Jason Schomburg.
The primary in Illinois could carry some weight in determining the Republican nomination for president. How do you guys see that primary playing out in Illinois, and whom do you think will ultimately secure the nomination in Illinois and nationally?
We're used to being orphaned in Illinois, and the primary comes so late that the decision is made before Illinois gets to vote. We got so tired of that when Barack Obama ran for president, we moved the primary up a month so we could have some impact on that race. It's now back on March 20th, and I think everyone thought once again that the Republican race would be over before it got to Illinois. Now it looks like there's a reasonable chance that it will not be over, that it'll still be competitive. I would guess, I haven't seen polling on this, but I would guess that Mitt Romney would do well in the state because of the way the Republican vote breaks out. We did do polling recently on Tea Party support in the state and found that 1/3 of people who identify themselves as Republicans say they are more likely to vote for someone who is identified with the Tea Party. So I would say there's a good rough measure of the non-Romney vote that you're likely to see in Illinois. We often saw that in primaries here when Jim Thompson ran, when Jim Edgar ran. About 1/3 of the vote would show that it was more conservative than mainstream Republicanism in the state. The question then is which of the three non-Romney candidates is likely to pick up much support, and boy, go figure that one, it's up and down every week. Al Salvi, who was the Republican candidate for Senate many years ago, is backing Santorum, maybe the most prominent person you'll see of a non-Romney candidate. Dan Rutherford, the state treasurer, is very prominently for Romney, and most of the people who throw money into Republican primaries here seem to be backing him. So that would be my guess, that Romney would do well in Illinois.
first of all, despite the wonderful build-up from Kevin, I'm looking out here at this room and I can see too many people that know more about this stuff than me to stand up and act like I'm as smart as I'm supposed to be. But I'm always, I got a column, so I'm always willing to give my opinions. I think a big part of this is, will everyone still be in the race by the time it gets to Illinois? If everyone is still in the race, I think Romney is an Illinois kind of Republican. Certainly the whole traditional party apparatus, I think, is going to be behind him. He's their kind of guy. But I do think that coming out of next week and again out of Super Tuesday, there will be some pressure for the Republican conservatives to try to figure out who they really like, because they've got a better chance of pulling this off if they can get one of them out of the race. So if Gingrich gets out, then I think it's just a total wild card of what could happen here. And I've been of the opinion since the start that Romney looked to me to be like the adult candidate who made the most sense, could run a conventional kind of campaign. So surely that's who the Republicans would nominate. And again, it does. I have no idea anymore. If one of those other guys would get out of there, I think he's dead meat at this point.
I agree with my colleagues up here that Illinois looks like a Romney state. It has, but with Michigan coming on Tuesday, if Romney falters in Michigan, who knows what happens. I kind of look at Rick Santorum's emergence similar to Bill Brady kind of emerging in Illinois as the candidate. Like, how could someone with certain very strong beliefs on the right side do so well in a broader race? Bill Brady had a bunch of odd things happening to him, but this isn't an exact analogy, but even he lost to Pat Quinn in Illinois. That was not a primary, that was all the voters. And it's hard to lose to Pat Quinn in Illinois these days. But, the kind of hard right conservatism that Rick Santorum is talking about, there's a whole lot of Republicans in Illinois, particularly those in Springfield who have made money off of state government for years, who don't believe in that kind of republicanism. They much prefer the Romney kind of republicanism, which those on the right might call rhinos, Republican in name only, but that's derogatory, so you might not want to say it that way. My guess is it goes Romney's direction unless all heck breaks loose.
When Obama won in 2008, did it change politics at all in Illinois? And win or lose this November, what's next for the president?
It's interesting because as a colleague, the other paper's columnist, Cass, loves to paint Chicago in the worst possible tones, so he keeps calling Obama like part of the outfit. But generally speaking, it's a positive for Illinois. He seems to, Michelle keeps him in line. He's trying to do the right thing. A lot of people don't like his policies, but he doesn't seem to be, taking money under the table, hand over fist. And he can sing pretty well. So, a net positive for the state.
Well, what's he do next after the presidency?
It would be just interesting to see, he's hoping, of course, that'll be another 5 years away. But the question of presidential library happens, and probably University of Chicago, where he spent some of his time, and because Chicago is his adopted home, I'm guessing that city will see a presidential library, which has been a good thing for Springfield. It only took us 150 years or so to get Abraham Lincoln's, but it's a nice place to visit.
I gotta say, I've been sort of surprised in the short run how little impact Obama's presidency has had on Illinois. For one, he just went out there and he doesn't come back. I thought we'd see him on weekends. And clearly also he doesn't want to have a whole lot to do with Chicago politics and you know, with the Chicago way that the Tribune has very well done a very good job of putting out there. But I mean, the main thing, his biggest impact so far is Rahm Emanuel is mayor of Chicago, and Rahm Emanuel would not be mayor of Chicago if he hadn't gone out there to do this stint as chief of staff, because that's what got African American voters in Chicago to say, okay, he's our friend, which totally changed the dynamic of him just being, you know, Daley's guy holding down, you know, a north side seat. So, I mean, that's a huge change for our state. It changed the dynamics of everything in Illinois. We got a mayor now who plays in Springfield, who likes to mix it up, who's gonna try to pass the casino bill. He'll try to pass, he's trying to change education. He's doing all kinds of things. Probably has national aspirations of his own. That's that sort of thing. Other people that Obama has sort of birthed here, like a legislator named Will Burns, who, you know, probably is going to want to go to Congress in a few years. Obama's impact here, he's going to be, whoever he puts his arm around for decades now will have a leg up, and that'll have a huge impact. But for right now, it's just been sort of amazing. He just, okay, I'm from there, and I honestly don't believe he's coming back. I have a hard time seeing him coming back. And if it's in another year, he's just going to go off and be depressed for a while, I think.
So say he doesn't run for president. He gets to the Senate. Everybody knows he hated the Senate. He didn't have any seniority. He got bored quickly in the Senate. And if Daley had announced he was going, I don't know if he would have left the Senate, but if he had, he would have been the odds-on candidate to run for mayor of Chicago. Probably would have walked in if he had been able to give up presidential aspirations and hadn't run when he did, he'd be mayor.
Are you saying he would come back and be mayor?
No. I'm saying that if he hadn't run for president in 08,
absolutely,
Daley announces that he's gone. You've got Barack Obama in the Senate, very frustrated about the job, no seniority, and he says, "Oh, the heck with this, Washington. I'll come back and be mayor."
At least he would have understood real power then.
There's probably times he wishes he was mayor of Chicago and not president. Should newspapers be endorsing candidates? And if your paper does do endorsements, take everybody through that process and how you get to that point.
All right, for those of you who don't know, the reason this question is here is because I work for a newspaper that has stopped doing endorsements. And so, if I was a newsmaker and you were journalists, I would say, can we go off the record? But of course, you being good journalists, you wouldn't let me go off the record anyhow, so I will be cautious in how I answer this question. But sometimes we have new ownership and we have new management. And this policy sprang forth from new management, and the philosophy, stated philosophy behind it is that there is research out there that shows that a lot of readers, a lot of the public, one of the reasons that they don't like newspapers anymore is that they think we're biased, and they believe that the editorial endorsements are a sign of our bias, and that they believe that if we pick up sides with a political candidate, then our news coverage will then go on to reflect that. Personally, I believe in newspaper endorsements. I always take Bruce's sheet with me into the polling place every year, along with ours.
And he votes exactly the opposite.
I know where Bruce is going the party line and where he's actually, made a thoughtful decision, and I believe in Bruce's thoughtful decisions, along with my newspaper's thoughtful decisions, and I know, and I go with the ones I know too. But So I'm not happy with it, but it's not as you know, the editorial page it should be it's the owner's page. It's his, to my philosophy, he's the one that gets to say what the newspaper, where it should go. Now, the other thing you should know here is that, again, we have a whole bunch of new owners, and I don't think they're real comfortable with, being in the middle of political stuff. At least the side of it that the Sun-Times has historically been on. So, and on top of that, we have one owner who's probably going to run for governor. So, you add all that up, it probably makes some sense to get out of the editorial endorsement business. But again, I wish we were still in there.
You don't do it for sound business reasons. You don't make endorsements for that. When we endorsed George Bush in 2004, 4,000 people canceled the Chicago Tribune. When we endorsed Barack Obama in 2008, 4,000 people canceled the Chicago Tribune. So you always get some segment really, really mad at you when you do these things, and you'll lose some readers, and hopefully you bring them back. But we do it because, say, there's an opinion, there's a good reason to have opinion in a newspaper. I think it helps people. You can disagree, you can agree with us, but we do try and make you, give you something to think about. And we do try and set an agenda. We've been trying really hard in the editorial page to set an agenda to get this state back to solvency and to create a more ethical agenda at the state. And if we were to say, we'll tell you what laws to pass, we're going to tell you everything except who ought to be making those decisions. That's where the great disconnect falls to me. So we're going to keep making endorsements, and I think we should keep making endorsements. I disagree with Mark on one thing. He said it's the owner's page. The great value that I found in our editorial pages, I've never had an owner dictate to me. The publisher of the newspaper, who is not the owner in our case, does have final say if he wants to take it on an endorsement decision. He's never done it in my experience. Everybody asks me all the time, does Sam Zell put his thumb on what you guys do? I never had a conversation with Sam Zell about, and I never had a conversation with the CEO about, I've told the CEO so they're not surprised, I've told the publishers so they're not surprised, but they're not dictating what we do on the editorial page. They want to know that we've got a sound fundamental principles in how we're going about it, and they leave us alone after that. If they don't, if they're going to start picking and choosing, well, then we might as well get out of the business. But we've been very lucky that we're not there. On a presidential race, we'll give you an opinion, you'll give us ours, we'll have a great debate on the page. On lower down races, on the legislature, on judges, we're probably the only thing you're going to know about the race. I spent much of the last week analyzing appellate judges across the state and circuit judges in Cook County. And I was talking to, one of the things I do is I talk to the presiding judges. I talk to the people who run the courts, and they're pretty frank with us on background on who's working and who's not, and who's good and who's not, who follows the law and who doesn't. And one of the presiding judges said, I'm glad you keep doing this because you move 4 to 6% of the vote in an election. A lot of times, especially in Cook County, the only other thing you know is who the Cook County Democratic Party endorsed. I've gone to slate making sessions. Judges and candidates for judge come in and there's one thing on their mind to tell them how loyal they have been to the Democratic Party. You can be loyal or disloyal to the party, but it has nothing to do with whether you're going to be a good judge or not. So if you have two pieces of information, one is an independent newspaper and the other is the party, we hope people would follow the independent recommendation.
We do endorse in general elections. We don't endorse in primaries in my time there. I'm not sure that's the best thing. I am in favor of endorsements, and I'll tell you what the basic reason is. As reporters, or and it's not that I get to sit in on editorial board meetings, but I'm not on the board, and I don't have a vote, and I'm not even in the room when they vote. And given the shrinking size of the paper, now there's only like 4 people on the editorial board. There used to be more. We have some community members too, and I'm not sure how they will play out in all of this when decisions ultimately get made. We probably, but we get to have the candidates in, similar to what I get as a reporter, to interview candidates or see them in action. which is more than most people get to see a candidate. And you can get an impression, and I think it's important for us to use that knowledge to tell you the intangibles about people. Particularly, you know, both of these folks' newspapers, at least in the past, you know, the list of judges, as Bruce just said, tremendously, and Mark, tremendously important if you don't know anything else about them, because, you know, you're not going to get that kind of knowledge otherwise. And just, you know, from alderman on through, you know, United States Senator, the impressions that people leave in the time that they spend and the questions that they field in front of an editorial board, similar to in front of a reporter at a press conference or an interview, I think it's useful for us to help make decisions with that knowledge. It's interesting that my paper doesn't do endorsements in primaries, because we have one new state Senate district, for example, that McCann district, where you've got two good Republican candidates, no Democratic candidates. This is going to be the race. We are not going to be endorsing in this. Probably something we should think about, but it's above my pay grade.